Hello. So last Saturday, I performed a live set in Bespoke, opening for a friend's group called Acid Basket at the Blue Triangle Gallery down in Chinatown in Boston. And I wanted to talk through my setup and what I uh, built to do the show, how I did it as sort of like an example application of how you could use Bespoke in this context. Um, So I'll start. So this is the patch that I created for the show, and here's the hardware I brought. So I have inside of a flight case a push 2, which is kind of the main control surface for all of the modules. I have a launch pad, which I'm using to control uh, glitch and buffer shuffle effects, and then a monome here, which I'm using to control the M185 sequencer in Bespoke. And then if we go over to the patch, here's all the stuff I have here. So I have things kind of arranged in columns. So this section over here is a drone setup. I've got drums right here. I've got a keyboard for controlling a lead here. I've got my bass sequencer here. I've got an acid line here. I've got a gated chord thing happening here. I've got the M185 sequencer and instruments here. And then I've got some little vocal samples in a drum player here. Let's see, and they're running down into a stutter and buffer shuffler for the drums here, and a stutter and buffer shuffler for everything else here. And that all goes into sends to go to a reverb, and then a compressor and master delay. Then I've also got this little noise sweep that goes around every 4 bars when there's audio. So then if I go back here, you can see those columns right here. So this is the drums column, and the lead, the bass that you saw in the patch there. So if I go to the drums here and I enable them, then you have it running there. You can see over in Bespoke that I've got it going there. And you can see we've got the drums going, and then I've got my buffer shuffler running here. So this will be the first 16th note. So that the first 2 here control the buffer shuffler that's running through, and then this is a stutter. So different lengths, or lower speed or double speed. Dotted eighth gives me a lot of different options for chopping things up live. And also the top row here is mutes for the different drum sounds. So there's just the kick. I think here is the hat. So that lets me sort of edit down and I can bring them all back in. And then I can also, in the drum sequencer, go into this other display where I can see the drum sequence here. So that's let's bring it down to nothing. So here's just the kicks. One thing while we're talking about the buffer shuffler, you can see that I have something to sort of keep it fresh. Is every 4 bars there's a little random buffer shuffling that happens. So if you look over in the patch over here, I've got my buffer shuffler on the drums, and then I've got this note counter sending out random pitches that on the last 2 beats of a 4-bar phrase, it will send those random pitches through. And then also just with this one extra, this will always play the first 16th note of the phrase on the last beat to just sort of create this little turnaround fill every time through the loop. You can also hear that noise loop I was talking about that is happening here, that is slowly rising over time, but you only hear it when the audio is going into a level CV. So if I were to turn off the drums, you can see that that level CV goes down to 0, and we're no longer hearing the noise sweep. So yeah, it's sort of tied to the audio there. Cool. Yeah, so that shows, I'll rename the drum sequencer there. Yeah, so if I wanted to have so this is the different pages of the drum sequencer here. Going through the other parts of it. Sorry, I wasn't really showing you there, but okay, so here's the different layers of the drum sequencer there. So that just lets you like build up your live drums, and then also mute them out if you want to. All right, just keep that going. Let's see, we've got our bass sequencer here, so we could just enable it and have, I think if we look over at the bass, it just has this little syncopated pattern here, so I can enable it from the push. And it's sending into pigments and also just a sub bass here that goes into a distortion. And then we go back to, I think I have the bass currently going into the, okay, yeah, so the bass is actually ignoring that, so it's always like a constant. But if I put in, let's see, like the acid line, for example. So now I just have, so this is the buffer shuffler and stutter for all the other lines going into it. So that lets me jump around, so, you know, if you have things going and you have a loop going for a while, you know, you can spice it up a little bit with it. And then also you can cut out the bass. Have a little acid solo. Then we can bring back the kick and the bass at the same time. Yeah, so yeah, it lets you sort of like get your hands on a lot of stuff and turn it on and off quickly. I've also got the let's get the acid going again. If we go to the favorites, so I've got a bunch of different favorite sliders that I mapped out onto the push to control here. So some of those are filter settings on that acid line there. Same with on the drums, I have a little echo effect so that I can like change up how the drums I can also put a filter on the drums if I want to. see, I also have, bring the drums back in. Whenever I felt like I wanted to change things up, I showed I had that big echo that's on, big delay that's on the main output. So if I have a favorite to control on there, so that's just doing a dot note delay. It's going into a compressor so it doesn't get too loud. It just kind of washes out the whole sound. So this could be, let's see, I could use this and I could kill the drums and there, and then turn the delay amount back down. And now I just did my little fade out. Got a little stuck note on the oscillator there. Yeah, let's see. I also had this gated chord thing here, which I can enable here. If we go back into bespoke, you can see that here. So that is running through this. Right now it's just playing the first one. If I set the length up to 4. Then you've got this little chord progression going. It's going into a square wave that has a filter on it. And then this muter that's doing the gating. So that, you know, say you had that running also with the bass there and the acid. So it's just all giving you tools, like a palette to improvise with and create stuff and then run effects on it and then just like kind of keep it moving, and have your, you know, the stutter effects help you to create some rhythmic interest and change over time, and also having that little section that automatically does the turnaround every 4 bars kind of helps remind me where I am and when to change things up, like where the next, thinking in 4-bar phrases, which is good for sort of dance music sort of stuff, remembering like when I should change it up, like, oh, I just heard a change up, so let me drop something on the next downbeat. And it keeps me from lingering in one spot for too long. Let's see. And then the last thing I've got here, one of the last columns here, is the M185 sequencer I was talking about. Let's go back to the camera here. So this is a sequencer. If I go back to bespoke, actually. So I've got it running through here, and it's sending up pitches 0 through 7, which correspond to these columns in the note table, that are going down to 3 instruments. We got 1 pigments. We've got this oscillator here, and with a filter on it, and then we've got the Car+ Strong string synth, and they're all going in here. So if we go back to, oh, and then there's a note hocket that is sort of like randomly choosing which one to go to, which creates some nice like accent patterns over time. So back to seeing the interface here. So the M185 sequencer is a sequencer that's kind of like the Metropolis sequencer in Eurorack, where you have a number of steps and then a behavior of if they should repeat the steps or just play once or hold or rest. You can also control the rate and a filter here. So if I just have one note going here repeating, if we go back, we can see in the note hocket here, it's playing the same note over and over again, this first column of the note table, but it's sending them to random destinations out of these here. this. I can edit it here. I've got my note table there, which I can also edit. I can go over here, and I can go to the note table here, and when I go into this view, play the second step of it, then you can see it's playing this one. If I turn on both of them, you can see it going back and forth there. So one step each going back and forth. If I set it to say 3 steps on the first one, so it's doing 3 steps here, and 1 step here, 3 and 2. Filter in the row here, which is nice for changing it. I've got different settings for, like this one, we'll just let it run freely. So right now I've got 5 steps here, so now it's just like running a 5-step thing, which will like phase out of a 4-bar phrasing. I've got a setting here that will, every downbeat, reset it to the first step, which kind of helps keep it in a phrasing. Turning all these steps on is cool. Oh yeah, so like, yeah, we have the 3 and 2, so these are on repeat. I can also make them just like play once. I can also have them hold. This is just like a fun way to jam on sounds. It gives you a really interesting sort of sequencer. And you can just have it running through. And you can, yeah, so you could, for example, let's say we cleared it out. We just do one more time. That's a way of just like running a straight sequence through. It's like, oh, but let's say we want to repeat the first step 3 times. So I always put the first 4 steps. Or I just want the last 4 steps. And then while it's running. So it's just a really powerful setup for creating a lot of interesting stuff. And this is all running in this buffer shuffler inside it. So you can really get into sort of a groove just jamming with this. Just come across some really fun rhythms. Chop them up. Let's run it slower. And then you go back to your session view here, and you put your drums up. stuff for a while. Yeah, and then from there, eventually you just go, okay, let's get out of it. Go to the infinite echo. Turn things off, or totally change things up. Let's see, I can even randomize the pitches coming in here. Turn off the drums. Stop all these steps. And come out of that echo. See where we arrive at that random. Yeah, and then you got sort of a new place to start from with these random pitches that you put into the sequencer here. And that's just like keeping it going. Let's see. What else haven't we looked at? Oh, there was over here. There were the vocal chops that I told you about. So that was just something like adding a little. I just dropped in these random vocal chops from some library.
Repeat. Repeat.
Just a layer to put over things, which was a fun way to add a little. People like to hear vocal frequencies. Give you a little hook to go through. Let's see. Oh, there was that setup here. I was talking about the drone. So this is something I didn't play with very much live, but just a way of like playing with harmonics. Bring in a bunch of signal generators. And then let you like detune them in string ways. Mess with. Make it. Yeah. Sort of a fun toy to play with to get a drone going. Let's see, I also had some, I didn't use these very much either, but some drums because I wanted to have some almond break in. It's just fun when, you turn up the tempo. Do that, and then I can also, let's see, different effects on here let you do the buffer shuffler different ways. So this is normal speed, double speed, half speed, reverse, double reverse. So just fun toys to play with. Let's see, I still got a little bit of drone coming through. There we go. Let's see, there was also, I didn't show the grid keyboard here, which I didn't use very much, but it was just a way of getting... Just a way of getting some sort of lead in there, which I was a little too nerves to perform with, but let's see. So you can do stuff like this. If you go to the vocal controls, you can do this. Then you can capture it into a loop. And then we've got a looper running. And if we go to the looper, put on the nice 410 effect. Get something nice going there. Pitch it. Yeah, so it depends on how weird you want to get, how brave you want to be in front of a crowd. see. Oh, and one last thing that I had that was fun was the ability to control. So if we look here, out of all of my sequencers, I've got these scale degree controls here that are all hooked up to a single snapshot. And what that let me do was get some of them going here. Turn on the bass. Acid line here. So I think I got my tempo too low here. Let's get a good tempo. 119, I can't go that slow. There we go. Let's see, so I got all that going. And then I can go over to these snapshots here. I have a control on the push for it. So I've got this loop going here. And then I can control the scale degree. It's just a fun way to do chord progressions. You find something, you repeat it. So that was just a really fun way of setting up some progressions and having the whole thing respond. And yeah, just a super fun way of keeping things fresh. Turn everything off again. I guess let's follow that. Yeah, cool. I think that is all of the different pieces. So it was just like all an improvised live set, and I gave myself a big palette of options to play with. And yeah, I think it's something that, you know, I would probably want to keep playing with this more and come up with new ways to use it. Yeah, I didn't really do any preparing. Like, I could have had more drum sequencer patterns going. I was kind of just creating stuff on the fly. You can see I have these two snapshots here of just like basic like kick hat, or let's see, the drums was using XO, which is a really good drum synth that I would recommend. Drum VST. I had some different kits that I would switch between at opportune times. Yeah, I had these two patterns that I had pre-lit. But it probably would have been good to have more. I was just kind of doing things on the fly instead, you know, from the grid here. So yeah, that was my approach to a live set for Bespoke. It was super fun. Yeah, I don't perform very often, but it's something maybe I'd like to do some more. It was a really neat experience putting all this together. So hopefully some of the info you saw in here was cool and inspirational and shows you different ways you might be able to use Bespoke for a similar purpose like this. So thanks for watching. And if you wanted to hear the set that I played, I put some links to it in the recordings channel in Bespoke's Discord. So go and check that out. So thanks for watching. See you next time.